one of the most exciting races of the season, the São Paulo Grand Prix. Why is it not called the Brazilian Grand Prix? I actually read some stuff and it has a lot to do with sponsors, organizers, politics, etc. etc. So welcome to the weekend of the São Paulo Grand Prix pre-race review. This track has given us some incredible races in the past, and the rain on this weekend makes it extremely unpredictable. Norris, Piastri and Verstappen will face a sprint, and none of the above mentioned drivers can make the slightest mistake this weekend. Before I get into the Brazilian Grand Prix, I want to talk about an insane rumor that is floating around in the paddock, and that is Ollie Bearman moving to Ferrari in 2027. After Mexico Grand Prix, it's Bearman everywhere. Bearman on Twitter, Bearman on Threads, Bearman on Instagram, Bearman in all the articles. And you know what, I did some analysis and I realized that Bearman actually reminds me of Charles Leclerc. Let's go back to 2018, which was Charles Leclerc's first season in Formula 1 with Sauber. First 3 races he was struggling and asked for a different setup. Then in Baku, his engineers gave him a setup advice which gave him confidence between walls, and the setup was of understeer. That gave Charles a P6 in the race, and he did exceptionally well in the season in a Sauber alongside his teammate Mark Ericsson. Mark Ericsson, by the way, was sponsored by a Swedish company called Sauber. Now Mark Ericsson, I never think was a champion material, but guys, he was fast. I mean, he won Indianapolis 500 the following year. Charles was incredible throughout the season, and in 2019 he was promoted to Ferrari. Now Bearman made some mistakes in the season, but he covered up very well, especially in China, Holland and Bahrain. After autumn in 2018, Sauber came up with an upgrade and Charles killed it. And after autumn in 2024, even Haas has come up with an upgrade. The car is faster but a bit difficult to drive. And who was killing it? Ollie Bearman. And who was struggling? Ocon. Who was struggling in 2018? Mark Ericsson. And who killed it? Charles Leclerc. We also need to realize that Ocon is a much experienced driver than Mark Ericsson. So guys, this is like a photocopy season between Charles Leclerc and Ollie Bearman. It's insane. But the question is Ollie Bearman going to hold up to the speed in the remaining races and in 2026? If he is, then I won't be surprised if we see him next to Charles Leclerc in 2027 in a Ferrari. But that is if Charles Leclerc actually ends up staying in Ferrari in 2027, which depends a lot on 2026. Oh my god, there is a lot of confusion in the world of Formula 1 right now. So what is the future of Ferrari drivers? Only Ferrari engineers can tell. Now coming to rumor number 2, which is the governing body of Formula 1, the FIA, is going to be making a very important decision in the coming weeks, and that is a double pit stop for 2026. If you remember, they already tried this in Monte Carlo this year to make the race a little bit more interesting, but honestly it failed and it was a snooze fest of a race. Except some things that were happening in the midfield, but guys, it was a very boring race. Now, there are 2 major points to this. Number 1, all the drivers to use all 3 compound tires, which makes the race a forcibly 2 pit stop strategy. And the other view is that there will be 2 pit stops, but there will be no restrictions on compound. You can use whatever tire you want. Because I personally would love to see all the drivers use all 3 compounds in every race. There would be so much drama, so much grip issues, a lot to go with the strategy as well. And if you put up like 2 pit stops with any compound tires, then literally people could start with soft, end with hards, or go with 2 medium and a soft. There's a lot to do with strategy in the second vision as well. However, I think that vision 1 is very interesting. For me, if the regulation is happening, then I want the 3 tire to be used during the race, because it would be interesting to see strategically. And I don't know how the rule is going to do, because 2026 is a whole new Formula 1. Maybe I should make a video on the changes that are already out there in part 1 and changes that are happening and going to happen in the future in part 2, because they're literally making Formula 1 a whole new sport. But with so many changes, I guess Formula 1 is going to be super entertaining and very chaotic. And if you know me personally, you know that I'm a girl who loves chaos. I mean, I'm paying for it. I would love to see some action on the track. I'm invested in their life more than I'm invested in my own life. Now coming to the São Paulo Grand Prix, the track is spectacular. It's short, it's fast, it has some long corners, it has uphill, downhill and many bumps. And that means it's going to be a little difficult for the teams to understand what the car setup is actually supposed to be for Sunday. It's going to be raining, it's a sprint weekend, no driver can make any mistakes, so honestly it's going to be insane. Now given the conditions that I already spoke about, especially the rains, I think an advantage is going to be with McLaren, because we saw the trailer in Zandvoort But let's not forget that Red Bull has improved in the previous few months, and the person who's driving a Red Bull is literally Max Verstappen, who loves the São Paulo Grand Prix. I think they might focus on their straight line speed this weekend because that's really gonna help Max Verstappen fight in São Paulo. Now, Max Verstappen is entering São Paulo with the confidence of last season. Norris is entering São Paulo after the incredible run in Mexico, and he's also the leading championship. But what about Piastri? Listen to this. McLaren has said that the last two races were not supportive for Piastri because of low grip and track conditions, but he should be back in Brazil. Now, Brazil is a pretty chill track, but it has rain and it is cold, so Piastri needs to be ready for these conditions, or honestly, he might lose his championship this race. I don't know how Mercedes is going to do because they've been pretty confusing in the last few seasons. I mean, sometimes they win, sometimes they have a horrible weekend. So I don't expect much from Mercedes this season. And coming to Ferrari, actually Ferrari might just end up doing a little bit better than Mercedes, although the track conditions are not very good for Ferrari. But we have to remember that Ferrari hypercar raced in July at this track, and they must be having a lot of data. If Ferrari engineers actually care about this and would use the data correctly, then I won't be surprised if Ferrari actually ends up performing better than Mercedes this race. Here are some of my predictions. I think Oscar Piastri is going to be on the race weekend, but he might not do very well in the sprint. Norris might win the sprint. I feel that Max Verstappen might win the race. I think Ollie Bearman is going to do extremely well, and maybe Hamilton might come in the sprint podium. But the race podium, I don't think so. Thank you so much for watching my video, and please don't forget to like, share and subscribe.